Hey listeners, Adam O'Donnell here. Today I interview the co-founder of Deel. They have raised over $600 million, Y Combinator-backed company. My biggest takeaway, you gotta be willing to kill what's good to get to what's great.
They had this office hour every 2 weeks, their group office hours, and we were always like, it's growing, but it's not what it needs to be, right? And so we kind of took that aggressive switch when we just said, all right, we need to build something. We need to go further into what we're building. And we were lucky enough that we just had to restructure the product. And I think we went in the span of a week from nothing to, I think, 7 or 8 customers and a couple hundred people getting paid on the platform. And that was the first initial, like, hey, we've got something, right? There might be some potential in the future form of product market fit here. We just need to figure out how to get there.
There's so many times I listen to these and I'm like, this sounds way too easy. I was a founder, I pivoted, it didn't work out like that. Tell us more.
The product, the way we built it, one of our friends from YC used it in the way Deel is today, right? Like kind of took that early concept we had, which was bridging payments and contracts in one place, which are two things that are usually dissociated, right? Like you want to pay someone in another country, you want to have a contract in place, you sign a contract with HelloSign, and then payments happen in another place. We kind of had like the first, I think, spark of Deel was bridging those two things together and then eventually making the contracts and the compliance stronger and all of that. But that was like when we saw that use case, like I think he was hiring someone in another country and he just liked the idea of like being able to release money as he goes through that. We're like, oh, okay, there's really something there.
All it took was one customer using it in a different way to give them that aha moment. That was where they got their conviction.
Whenever one of us has conviction, we just execute. In that case, that was actually me, where I remember walking in a small 2 bedrooms where I think one of my teammates was even sleeping in the bathroom at the time because we like the shower was pretty big, so we had an air mattress there and we couldn't truly afford the rent in San Francisco. It was super expensive. I remember walking into a nice place downstairs where we were working from and just saying, hey guys, we think we're going to change the product to that. And everybody was like, okay, what do we need to do, right? And I think those are the people that really shape a company early.
As you can see, they have an incredible story. You got to listen to the rest. Boom. Hey, welcome to Sit Down Startup Founder Podcast. I'm your host, Adam O'Donnell, former founder and VC. I now work at Zendesk for Startups, where we offer 6 months free use of Zendesk for qualified high-growth companies. Alex, so great to have you on the show. Please give us an overview about Deel for anyone who doesn't know.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here and love the work that you guys are doing at Zendesk. So Deel. So I'm Alex. I'm the founder of Deel, originally from Paris, and kind of traveled all over the world, studied in a few different countries, and had the opportunity to work with amazing people from all over the world all of my life, really. So in 2019, after a couple positive and negative experiences, I realized that the whole experience of global hiring just wasn't there. You know, it's kind of something people we're doing, but not properly. And we wanted to basically build a solution that enables companies to hire anyone, anywhere. So prior to Deel, you wanted to work with someone in another country, you either had to pay them for like PayPal and not really know what you're doing, not understanding the local labor laws or anything on the other side as a 1099, or potentially like open a country and just hire a lot of people into one country and, invest into one region, or really going through third-party agencies that would take a significant percentage of the salary and you didn't even know what was happening on the back end of things. We basically wanted to build the simplest solution for you to be able to hire someone in whatever way, shape, or form is convenient for your company, whether it's as a contractor, through one of our entities. We've got over 100+ entities today, or even if you were to set up your own entities in a country, we can help you manage that. So end-to-end solution to do that. I guess for the background, we're about 1,300+ people today. We've raised north of $600+ million, and we have over 10,000 customers from small companies, maybe a couple that are probably going to listen to this podcast, all the way to publicly traded companies and enterprises.
Very cool. Well, congratulations on that. Was this the original product that you launched Deel with?
I think the essence of the product was similar. For us, it was about enabling people to get paid in other countries. And I guess, eventually what happens is you realize there is just more to the problem that we quickly realized it was compliance, and then we quickly realized there was more to it, different types of employment, different types of structures, and end to end, we just realized that the whole HR suite of tools was not built for global teams. And it was always like, oh, we're very big in like the US, and then we have ad hoc presence everywhere. And I think, over the last 2-3 years, things have kind of shifted, or at least the cards were a bit redistributed. So the need for more global hiring, more global HR solutions that are, whether it's mindful or inclusive of generally everyone, it's definitely a big need, and that's what we're here to provide.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm sure COVID was a huge boost for you.
And look, I think it wasn't a boost in the way most people think at all. Obviously it was a very tough time for a lot of people, and what we saw is a lot of big companies were maybe not ready for a solution like ours, were forced into using a solution like ours because suddenly, their best engineer or their best, I don't know, their best salesperson wanted to relocate to another country where they didn't have the right infrastructure, and they couldn't, actually lose that talent. So I think it accelerated for us just the access towards larger companies because of the need, right? Like that. For early stage founders, that hair on fire problem, right? Like it doesn't really, I don't know if you know that story, but like it's a very interesting YC concept, which is if your hair is on fire, you're going to take whatever you can to just turn the fire down, and, it might be a break, but you'll still do it because there's fire on your head, right? So if people need your product that bad, that even early on, right, like 1 or 2 years into the product, and, as a founder yourself, right, that it's not like going to be the best product in the world. There's going to be a lot of behind the scenes. If people were that eager to use the product at that time, we knew there really was something, and it was time for us to triple down.
Oh, that's cool. I know exactly what you're saying. Well, tell us one of the early growth stories that right before one of the hockey stick moments that you saw.
Growth stories. I mean, we have many, I know Elizabeth loves when I talk about that one. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but we pivoted to what Deel is today, or at least the beginning of what Deel is today, a week before demo day when we went through Y Combinator in 2019. So that was really, I think at the time it was, we were kind of building something that we thought was okay. We thought was good, but it was growing, but not the way you expected, right? It was just your average kind of growing product, kind of interested, like people kind of had some interest into it. It wasn't exponential. And I remember going through Y Combinator office hours, right? Like it's this, I mean, you're based in SF, so I'm assuming you know what YC is, right? They had this office hour every 2 weeks, their group office hours. And we were always like, it's growing, but it's not what it needs to be, right? And so we kind of took that aggressive switch when we just said, all right, we need to build something. We need to go further into what we're building. And we were lucky enough that we just had to restructure the product. And I think we went in the span of a week from nothing to, I think 7 or 8 customers and a couple hundred people getting paid on the platform. And that was the first initial, like, hey, we've got something, right? There might be some potential in the future form of product market fit here. We just need to figure out how to get there.
That's interesting. Can we zoom into that a little bit? So like you said, the essence is the same of what you started on, but then you had this big pivot a week before demo day. What made you feel like we have to make a change?
The journey was, we started with a payment infrastructure to help people around the world get paid by their customers. And the first hypothesis we worked on was the reason why people don't work together on that front, right? The reason why those transactions are hard is because you don't trust both parties. And that wasn't eventually true, right? Like I think most people getting paid on the other side of the world are just, what we realize oftentimes, like happy to have the opportunity to work with companies. So for 2-3 months, we kind of like played around different ideas in that space and like helping freelancers, contractors get paid and all of that. And then eventually what happened is the product, the way we built it, one of our friends from YC used it in the way Deel is today, right? Like kind of took that early concept we had, which was bridging payments and contracts in one place, which are two things that are usually dissociated, right? Like you want to pay someone in another country, you want to have a contract in place, you sign a contract with HelloSign, and then payments happen in another place. We kind of had like the first, I think, spark of Deel was bridging those two things together and then eventually making the contracts and the compliance stronger and all of that. But that was like when we saw that use case, like I think he was hiring someone in another country and he just liked the idea of like being able to release money as it goes through that. We're like, oh, okay, there's really something there. And then, being international founders, we quickly realized, well, a US founder has no idea how to pay someone from Paris, right? Or from Israel, or my co-founder was born and raised in China, right? So how to hire someone there, or even in that case, how to pay someone there. So it made so much sense that we just said, we know we've got it, let's hustle and get to it.
That's amazing. It was that simple. Like it wasn't like you had a bunch of additional research. It was at the end of all the things that you had done leading up to
We
that
had a
moment.
lot of not research into that product, a lot of failed products, like from like debt collections for freelancers to focusing on. So I think one of the important moments for us was early on, we also focused on the wrong people. For us, it's always like when you think about Deel, if there's hundreds of millions of people hired for the platform, like you always have the end user as a customer. So we thought, hey, why don't we go after a lot of like those freelancers, contractors, and get them to be hired for Deel and bring that layer of security and trust. And then we realized pretty quickly that just that go-to-market was never going to work like B2C. That was, for example, like an experiment we had at the very beginning, and switching to B2B was definitely like the right move for us, like that kind of B2B2C where you're really focused on giving a great teammate experience, but the person you're selling to today is on the client side, which actually, kind of to us is kind of obvious today. It really wasn't at that time.
Makes
So
sense.
tons of fun stuff to get there. And even when we got there, it's when you're talking about payment infrastructure, paying people globally, entities set up in 100 plus countries, like, for over a year, we were nicely growing, I'd say 20-30% plus month on month, but like, nothing crazy happened, right? Like we were just heads down building, because if I'm going to school you on compliance, I need to have it's not going to exactly take a day for us to figure it out.
Interesting. So you're saying right after demo day, you went heads down instead of go to market.
Yeah, we went heads down, always with go to market. I think if you're not growing, you're dead, right? Like that's the basic concept of most startups, right? You're defined by your growth. So although you should be building, constant validation of your product value is super important. If not, you just don't know what you're building. If you don't know if you're building the right things. So being super close, that very cliche thing of being super close to your customers is not that cliche, right? Like what's important is like, can you build the right things for them to pay? If they're paying, they like the product. Can you maintain their appreciation for the product? Are you customer centric enough to ship the next thing that's going to make them pay more, or make them retain more, or help them into like the next journey of cycle of their company, right? Which is what we're doing for new launches and new products. And this is the only way to keep growing, right? So what I like to usually describe it as, actually, it was one of the things I pitched at our Series A was, we really got to a point where founders-led sales, which are always the most important thing, I think, but we got to a point where it made sense to grow the team beyond just me and Shro selling. And that was one of the moments where we realized, okay, like we're getting to that tipping point where raising more capital and then doubling down on the sales team makes sense, because if we can do it, if we build the best practices, professional salespeople can do it even better than us, right? But until we know how to do it, they probably can't.
Yeah, it sounds like you took that same principle. Like we need to understand this before we start hiring and scaling it throughout.
If you can't do it yourself, no one else can. Like if you don't put your hands in it, hiring the best managers, in my experience, are the ones that will do the job until they truly understand and can scale their teams and can put their hands in the mud, right? You said you work at a company, at a fund called Muddy Capital. I don't know if that.
I did, yeah, Mighty Capital. I worked there in 2020.
Right. So, if you can't put your hands in the mud, then you probably are not the right person to lead that team. And that's, maybe a more interesting thing as companies scale, like being able to identify the people that are willing to roll up their sleeves and get the job done are the best people, right? Like what you want to avoid is those execs that are, just giving orders and talking away. And those are the people you really want to avoid in a company for sure.
I hear that loud and clear. So help me with the feeling amongst the co-founders before you made the pivot. Was it just kind of like, hey, like, we're in a good track, like it's a little slower than we thought, like, or was it like, we have to make a change?
One of the things we have at Deel, for better or for worse, is that concept of deal speed. It's one of our company values, where for us, it's about speed of execution. And one of the things that we do really well is whenever one of us has conviction, we just execute. And I think at that time, in that case, that was actually me, where I remember walking in, and at the time we had 2-3 team members already global. Actually, most of them are still at the company today. I think all of them almost. I walked in that small apartment we were crashing in SF, like a small 2 bedrooms, where I think one of my teammates was even sleeping in the bathroom at the time, because we like the shower was pretty big. So we had an air mattress there, and we couldn't truly afford the rent in San Francisco. It was super expensive. I remember walking into like the in that building, they had a nice place downstairs where we were working from, and just said, hey guys, we think we're going to change the product to that. And everybody was like, okay, what do we need to do, right? And I think those are the people that really shape a company early, right? Like you can't really, time is money on that case, and you probably don't have a lot of it. So you need to move really fast and you need to see what sticks. And if you don't have people with the mindset they're able to follow you or follow your teammates or whoever into like whatever execution needs to happen, then you're gonna be in trouble. So I remember this very clearly. I just walked in and say, guys, like this, I think we've got this. This is how we need to do it. And we just like worked away every day till like 2, 3 a.m. to ship it. And yeah, that got us through demo day.
That is amazing. Exciting times. I love those stories. What was one of your first go-to-market channels after the demo day?
It was mainly us going after companies. I remember Shuo emailing, she's our CRO now. So very early on, we're like, okay, I'm a decent salesperson, but I'm very bad at like follow-up, structure, Salesforce. Well, we didn't implement Salesforce for a long time, but like all of those things are just not my thing. While Shuo is much more like organized and squared on that front. So very, very early on, we're like, okay, you take go-to-market and I'll kind of focus on the rest of things. And, although at the very beginning, we're all involved in like the pure sales part and like making sure that deals close, making sure deals go through. That was always kind of Shuo's thing. And early on, she was doing, we kind of all were, but she was aggressively doing a lot of SDR work. So emailing, I think 100 plus people a day. I think my quota was 30 plus people a day. She was emailing 100 plus people a day. And the goal was, growing 20, 30% month on month, which of course, when you're making like $10,000 is not that much, but it's just like the ideology behind like you're still growing at that speed is what really one of the things we took from YC, right? That like growth bubble where you need to get to a point and ship there and be ready for demo day with the most amazing numbers you can get to, and is the most amazing story you can get to. I think we kind of kept that mindset where we needed to grow, as much as we could every month. And so as just cold outreach, obviously to some extent, Y Combinator is a great way to tap into B2B, right? Like all your batchmates and all the previous companies before are potential customers. So you can't abuse it because, it gets on people's nerve, but, people are willing to help and try product because, you were there before. And then just sending, we were kind of doing something where we had conviction. We knew there was a need for it. And it was about making people understand that the way they were doing it was just not correct. And it was very obvious to us, right? Like, I knew that when you paid that person in France, you were not doing it right, and you had no idea what you were doing. But it was very anchored in people's head that, hey, they can just do a wire transfer wise, right? Like it wasn't really like, hey, the whole relationship is poorly defined. Let us help you get there. But we were so, decisive on it that we were just, again, it's just about like putting it in front of the right people. And eventually when you get enough momentum, then you build up. This is how you should do it. Why didn't I do it that way before, right? But it definitely takes time to get there.
Absolutely. What was your mindset on the go-to-market outreach before the pivot? Was it that same kind of 100 people per day quota?
Yes, but we were doing different things at the time. We were trying to go, for example, when we're going to end users, so contractors, freelancers, we were, hanging around Reddit communities and others and trying to get as many people as we can. Actually, funny story. When during YC we had, I don't think I've ever told that story to anyone. I don't remember at least. It was kind of like a very nice growth hack. So at some point there was a Reddit post that was growing super quickly. It was a GitHub channel. There was a GitHub piece of code that would help you get paid if your client didn't pay you. So you build a website for your client. You can add that so that you have like a big red button that you can press whenever. And I remember seeing it grow on like, I don't remember which channel it was, like R coding probably. And when I saw it rise through the ranks, I just like DM'd the guy and said, I'll send you $100 if you put like next time use Deel to make sure you get paid on time. And that happened. And that post actually went, I don't remember. You can probably find it. I'll find it for you. But it went crazy, right? Like a lot of people actually like started that GitHub snippet, and we got a lot of like end users from that. And I was like, oh my god, maybe we got product market fit, and that was not it. But like it was like suddenly we had like 10,000+ people looking at what we were doing from that thing, right? So that's kind of like the the traps of building a company is you think sometimes you've got something, you don't have it. But yeah, that was, for example, an interesting way to go to market at the time, and we thought we were very successful. But that, like everything, that goes back down eventually.
That's amazing. If you haven't nailed the core product market fit, then even if you hit a growth hack, which you did, it's gonna pit.
It was pure growth hacking at that time, yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
But I love that creativity. The final question is, what is your superpower as a founder?
Two things. I think I'm pretty decisive, so I usually go heads first, and I think through things at a decent speed. So I go heads first, but I actually usually have thought through things before I do, pretty fast. So it makes just things move faster. And I have a tendency to do things myself as well. So like that the fact that I put my hands in first just shows the way to most people. There's no seniority, there is no title. It's like when we need to get something done, we kind of do it. And attached to that, I believe, but again, I think you should ask my teammate more than me. I'm pretty logical in my thinking. So most of the decision framework I have usually makes sense. Which makes people more comfortable, right? Like whether they're unhappy or happy about something, if the way you're going about the problem makes sense, and you're trying to do something that's pretty thought out, people are usually have a higher tendency to want to do this with you rather than do the nice corporate thing, like disagree and execute anyway.
So not afraid to make the absolute decision, but you are thinking through it. But that thought process is really condensed, and it has like a framework to it.
I think that's a decent way to put it. I think my head of comms would probably say more accountability as well. We take everything to heart, and that's something I think now we're 1,300 people. I hope everybody still has it, but I know that at our leadership level and our director level, everybody really takes things to heart, and things like that idea of accountability matters to them, specifically in the type of work we do, right? When you have the responsibility of getting like hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people paid on time with the right, tax and payroll and infrastructure, like you have to have that strong accountability and that strong customer empathy, because if that was you would want to be treated the right way. And that has always mattered to us.
This has been amazing. Thank you so much. That's a wrap. Thanks for listening. Make sure to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and Google. If you want to learn more about Zendesk for Startups and our free offer, please check out our website at zendesk.com/startups.